Mark Rogers TV talking South Carolina football each and every Friday morning with Will Gunter from 107.5 The Game, the all-new early game. Catch him there 6 to 9 Eastern time each and every morning. Will, let's talk special teams, and it's pretty much been a raid in terms of departures, starting with your all-time leading scorer, Elliott Fry. Hasn't been always the most accurate guy, but a guy that's been in play for 4 years, so he's always been a rock, an established guy that you knew was going to be there. Hit on 13 of 17 last year, so it appears as though you get a freshman in line to possibly take his place.
Well, and go back at Elliott Fry, season's maybe entirely different if he does not make the kick against Vanderbilt to start the season, a 50-plus yarder to win the ball game there with about a minute to go. And Elliott Fry, you're right, the all-time leading scorer, was a guy that's going to be difficult to replace. Several people are going to vie for that position. I like Alexander Wozniacki, or Wozniacki. I'm not very good at pronouncing his name, but people will get to know it, I think, throughout the year. This is a young man who Elliott Fry has actually said will break his scoring record over the next 4 years. Wozniacki has got a leg on him. He hit he kicked some field goals during the spring game from 50 yards out that went into the netting behind the field goal, behind the goalpost. And I think gives the Gamecocks a different kind of kicker, in that once they cross midfield, they might be in his range. Now, his accuracy during the spring game, that was a little bit different. If you can kick it a long way, but it doesn't go through the uprights, how much does it matter? It's kind of like playing golf. If you can hit it a mile, but you hit it dead left for a mile, it doesn't really matter. Wozniacki's the guy who I think is going to get the job. He's got to make some in pressure situations. Obviously, that opener against NC State, special teams is going to be key. Having the opportunity to capitalize when you get across midfield, maybe whether a field goal or whatever, that's going to be important. So that's the thing to watch when you talk about place kickers. But Alexander Wozniacki right now will enter fall camp as the guy that's likely going to be the replacement for Elliott Fry.
Yeah, you can kick them really long, but if they don't make it through the goalposts, I don't think they count those for three. They're just impressive to watch. Sean Kelly kicked it 72 times from the punt formation last year, but he's gone as well. Do you have any prospects in that position?
Two guys to keep an eye on: Michael Almond, who kicked a little bit last year, I believe kicked in the bowl game. I know Sean Kelly was out for the bowl game. He is probably going to be the starter when fall camp gets underway, and Joseph Charlton will factor in there some way. Joseph Charlton, actually a scholarship place kicker and punter that South Carolina brought in, may end up handling the kickoff duties. He's got a big leg on him. But certainly Sean Kelly, maybe his most famous moment was a fake punt against North Carolina 2 years ago when South Carolina opened up against North Carolina in Charlotte, and he faked a punt and ended up getting the first down. But Sean Kelly was reliable. He had some good accuracy, could pin the ball inside the 20-yard line when he had the opportunity. And again, that's another part of the game, being able to turn field position over and put yourself in position for the defense to back the opposition up. And so Michael Almond likely going to be the guy. Again, he's at least kicked in some games, has some experience. But I think you talk about a very underrated aspect of this game. Special teams for South Carolina, you mentioned it. You're replacing field goal kicking, you're replacing punting, you're replacing the long snapper. That's three very important parts of the football game that maybe don't get discussed enough. And South Carolina is going to have to break these guys in. And when you talk about NC State, Missouri, and Kentucky to start the season, there's not a game or two to get them a little bit of rest. They're going to have to come out the box ready to go.
Yeah, Almond kicked it twice in the Birmingham Bowl and did so pretty effectively at 44 yards per kick. So that bodes well for 2017. Yeah, if you mentioned the early games, those Thursday night games, those readily come to mind. Will, you don't have any competition on those openers. So I saw the Vandy game last year in North Carolina the year before, gun to gun. Remember those pretty well. In the kick return game, as we typically see in these college football programs, your hotshot young guy that at least can secure the football is going to get your shot as a kickoff and punt return specialist. Well, then if he turns into a star player on offense, then you pull him back typically and then look for the next wave of young guys to compete for those jobs. So you had A.J. Turner and Deebo Samuel pretty heavily involved in the kickoff return duties. I think they returned 29 between them. Do they continue to factor in back there? Or do you have other guys in play?
I think Deebo Samuel will be back there, but the guy to watch is an incoming freshman, the highest rated recruit in the class, Jamias Williams, out of Grayson High School in Loganville, Georgia. Williams is just electric with the ball in his hands. And I think this is a kid who you could see both at kick return and punt return, was very good in that position for his high school. Actually had Ohio State, Urban Meyer came down and offered him at the running back position very, very late in the process. And this is a kid that South Carolina could put on offense from time to time just because he's so electric with the ball in his hands. They need to find a way to utilize Jemias Williams at times to score some points, not just stop the opposition from scoring, because he's going to play defensive back for Will Muschamp and Travaris Robinson. But that's a guy that you look at that could factor into that equation. Debo Samuel certainly is a guy that could end up continuing to be a kick returner or a punt returner. I think Chris Lamons has handled some punt returns in the past. Punt returning actually was a problem last year. You had several guys go down with injury. It may have cost them a game or two just in terms of dropping punts. The Texas A&M game, South Carolina's in position to get the ball back to maybe go down and score, and they fumble a punt that allows Texas A&M to put the game away 24-13 against, or excuse me, I think kick a field goal to win 24-13 against Georgia. Hayden Hurst was back there to field a punt and let it go. South Carolina was down a touchdown, down 21-14, and Hurst let the punt bounce. It rolled down inside the 10-yard line. South Carolina was not able to generate any offense. Georgia had an easy short field. They went down and scored. Little things like that in the special teams aspect of the game people don't realize, but that really hurt South Carolina in 2 games last year and could be something that's important. So having a guy back like Jemias Williams, or bringing in a guy like Jemias Williams who can impact that aspect of the game, I think is something to keep an eye on this year.
Yeah, when you're kicking the ball back and forth 40 and 45 yards and you turn it over, there you go. It's a 40 or 45-yard play, and it's also a situation in which you have given an extra opportunity, extra possession to the opposition, and can really be a game changer. Jemias Williams out of Loganville, Georgia, top 8 cornerback out of that state, nationally top 8 cornerback, and the 9th-rated prospect out of the state of Georgia. And we know how talent rich the Peach State is, so mighty impressive out of Jemias Williams, although he's a little bit slight, according to his listing, at 5'9" and about 175. All right, talking South Carolina football each and every Friday with Will Gunter from the all-new Early Game. Catch him there on 107.5 The Game. Will, we always appreciate the insight. We'll get back tracking the SEC positions next week.
I look forward to it, man. I always enjoy it. The countdown is on.